And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. Just a reminder, folks, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. We've got a lot of games this week. There'll be some wins. There'll be some losses. We play 4 games. Seattle Kraken, Los Angeles Kings, St. Louis Blues, and then rounding off the week with the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's get into it. Seattle Kraken currently are sitting at 7th out of 8th in the Pacific. They do not have anybody on injured reserve right now. Everybody is healthy for the Kraken. To recap what they did during the trade deadline, because they had a couple of exchanges, Seattle Kraken sent Daniel Sprong to New Jersey Devils for a 2026 7th round. Winnipeg acquires Brandon Tanev from the Seattle Kraken for a 2027 second. And then the first part of this trade is Detroit acquires Yanni Gourde. However, Seattle Kraken is retaining about $2.5 million still out of Yanni Gourde's contract for Kyle Aucoin. And yes, Blackhawk fans, that is Adrian Aucoin's kid. And then they flip a coin. Tampa Bay acquires Bjorkstrand, a coin, and 2026 5th round. And then the Seattle Kraken acquire Michael Eyssimont, a 2025 second round, a 2026 first round, as well as a 2027 first round. So Kraken are picking up a lot of draft picks, which makes sense. They do have a couple of pieces, but they need more pieces. You can never have enough pieces, as Krusty and I say when we talk about the Blackhawks. They do not have a back-to-back. They have a little bit of a gap. Goaltending tandem for Kraken is still Joey Daccord and Phil Grubauer. Some notable pieces are Beniers, Stevenson, Kakko, and Shane Wright on forward. For defensemen, you're looking at Vince Dunn, Brandon Montour, and Alexiak. In short, the Seattle Kraken, a lot of prospects coming up potentially next year, if not definitely the year after. And that should be interesting. But, like I just said, you can never have too many pieces. So I think they're not in a rebuilding because they're new, but they're definitely building things. I don't know what type of things, but guys, Seattle's building things. Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Kings, which are 3rd in the Pacific behind the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. No back-to-back. They do have a 2-day gap between when they play previously and then when they play Chicago. Similar to the Seattle Kraken, nobody on injured reserve. Everybody's healthy for Los Angeles. For trade deadline, the Los Angeles Kings did acquire Kuzmenko and a 2025 7th round for 2027 3rd, and they're still retaining a bit of Kuzmenko. Philly is. On forwards, we have Fiala, Kopitar, Byfield, Kempe. Defensemen, you've got Doughty, you've got Gavrikov, you've got Anderson, you've got Clark. Goaltending tandem is your Darcy Kemper and your David Rittich. They're comfortable behind 1 and 2, even though I think right now Edmonton's on a little bit of a slump, and currently, this will come out in a couple of days, so who knows what the standings look like in a couple of days, but as of right now, I think Los Angeles is only 1 point behind Edmonton. Again, it's still probably going to be the 4th year in a row that you have an Edmonton Los Angeles Kings first round matchup. We'll see how that goes. There's not as much of a gap right now between 2 and 3, but there's a huge gap between Los Angeles and the rest of the Pacific. So obviously they're making it into the playoffs. Who knows what happens in the postseason? They always seem to be pretty strong in the regular season and then taper off during the postseason, but we'll see. Next up, we've got St. Louis Blues sitting 6th out of 8th in the Central. For injured reserve, you only have Krug and Parayko that have been out for a bit. Nothing with trade deadline, which is interesting because St. Louis, there's no in between. Either you have guys like Cairo and Thomas who are like locked up for a while, or everybody's contract ends after the 2025-2026 season. So I imagine, depending on what St. Louis does in the offseason, that they may be more active during next year's trade deadline if things are going well and they're wanting to flip pieces that they have right now. Goaltending tandem, you still have the pride of the Four Nations tourney, Jordan Binnington, as well as Hoffer. For forwards, you've got Kyrou, you've got Thomas, you've got Shen, you've got Buchnevich. Defensemen, you've got Falk, Broberg, and Letty. Guys, I know we lost to San Jose last week, and that was sad. But can we please beat St. Louis? Please. It would be great to see, or at least just an entertaining 60 minutes, which I think that may be more likely. Finally, we've got the Philadelphia Flyers sitting 7th out of 8th in the Metro. They do have a couple of pieces that are out right now. You've got Ellis with a back injury that's out for the whole year. Garnet Hathaway, which is day-to-day for upper body. Makiniemi, which is week-to-week for abdominal. Ristolainen is a day-to-day for undisclosed. Trade deadline, we mentioned this with Los Angeles. The Philadelphia Flyers sent Andrei Kuzmenko to the Los Angeles Kings. They did an even exchange with Giovanni Smith for Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson is back with Colorado. It's where he was previously. Bigger trade between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto receives Scott Laughton, 2025 4th round, 2027 6th round, and then Philly receives a 2027 1st round. Grebenkin, which I'm so sad that this kid has to be a Flyer now, because he was very, very fun. And they are retaining $1.5 million from Scott Laughton's salary. For goaltending, you got Fedotov as well as Ersson. They do have a back-to-back. They'll play Dallas in Dallas on Saturday, and then they play Chicago in Chicago on Sunday. For forwards, you've got Couturier, Tippett, Konecny, Michkov, and defensemen, you got Sanheim, Sealer, Drysdale, and Ristolainen if Ristolainen is back. Like I said, should be an interesting week. We've got 4 games. Who knows what will happen? There'll be some losses. Hopefully there'll be some wins. That would be really, really nice. I imagine there'll at least be 1 or 2. So that is all. Like I said, we've got the Seattle Kraken, the Los Angeles Kings, the St. Louis Blues, and the Philadelphia Flyers. Just also a reminder, if you're going to any of these games this week, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up all the pucks and play. The bathroom will still be there, the beer will still be there, and the food will still be there. If you're wanting good food before the game, highly recommend Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco over on Ogden. Food's amazing, only a couple of blocks away. Another reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell everybody. And that is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.